Hello and welcome to Pearl Magazine. With more than 5,100 COVID-19 cases, Hong Kong has a relatively low infection rate. And despite our 95% recovery rate, many people are still feeling sick months after the infection has left them. Tina Zhang talks to these long haulers and finds out that not only do they have to deal with fatigue, breathlessness, and other physical effects of the disease, the psychological impact is just as challenging.
Exercise definitely could help me to speed up my recovery. I feel more energetic after exercising. My name is Teresa. I got COVID-19 positive on late March.
Until today, Teresa still doesn't know who passed the virus to her, but she's pretty sure she got it on a flight back to Hong Kong.
That was about 30 hours flight. I have no idea, was it on the plane or at the airport? I wore a mask all the time during the flight. I washed my hand very frequently.
At the beginning of this year, Teresa quit her job in Hong Kong and started on a journey around South America. She visited a small town with very few people. She thought it would be safe.
I was enjoying my trip until there's more cases, imported cases in South America. And the news is like every day is record high. The airlines start announcing that they will stop their flights for the coming next 2-3 months. And more countries start locking down, close their border.
She faced the choice of being stranded there for at least 3 to 4 months, or of taking the risk of flying back home. She chose the latter.
I feel very safe when I got back to Hong Kong because I have so much confidence of the Hong Kong healthcare system.
During her 14-day home quarantine, symptoms appeared and she was admitted to public hospital.
At the beginning, I was quite calm, and then I start getting panic and worry about my body because it's going downhill on the first few days. I start getting a fever. I've got terrible headache. I lost my sense of smell and taste. I could only lay on the bed. That condition was quite terrible.
The WHO recognized the spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic in March, as many countries reported surging numbers of cases. Around the world, celebrities and even heads of state tested positive for the virus.
I saw UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson also got into ICU. That also made me scared. I have a thought that I don't want to die like that. I couldn't see my families and friends. I have so many things I haven't done. I have a moment of thinking, oh, I don't want to die alone in the isolated ward. I feel very depressed.
Hello. Who's your buddy? Your lunch.
Yes.
How long you been here?
More than 2 weeks now.
Okay.
Luckily, she had a roommate moving in at that time.
How long you been here?
On day 7 at the hospital, things start to improve. 2 weeks later, her body was clear of the virus and she was discharged.
On the first few weeks, I feel fatigued and tired, and then I start my regular exercise. After a couple months now, I feel quite normal, so I do regular jogging and roller skating. I don't feel any problem with my lung or breathing. I feel I'm recovered fully.
Teresa is one of the lucky ones who successfully defeated the virus, but not every patient easily adjusts to post-COVID life. 4 months after Vanessa got out of the hospital, she's still recovering.
I got some side effects from taking the medication, including sleepless nights. It's not like I couldn't sleep, but I just have really bad sleep. I couldn't really fall asleep. I had rashes, got pimples all over my forehead and some rashes on my neck. And my allergies actually got worse.
Vanessa still remembers the first few terrible weeks when she came out of the isolation ward.
I could barely walk around in my own apartment. I get really tired just standing up for maybe more than 10 minutes. I do find myself catching my breath all the time. If I walk more than 2 flights of stairs, I'm already sweating or I'm breathing hard.
She took a career break in March and went to Canada for snowboard instructor training. When she returned to Hong Kong, she tested positive for COVID-19.
I consider myself pretty healthy before I caught the COVID-19. I'm a swimmer and I'm also a snowboarder. I just constantly tell myself that I have to be patient in working my way up back to my fitness level.
In order to get better, she turned to Chinese medicine.
Some patients may have blocked nose and sneezing, shortness of breath. In Chinese, we think that they have deficiency in both the spleen and lung. So we would use some herbs like astragalus, Cadenopsis pilosula, and Actylodes macrophylla to improve their conditions.
As part of the rehabilitation, the hospital authority, together with NGOs and universities, are now providing special Chinese medicine clinics for discharged COVID-19 patients. Each patient can get a maximum of 10 free consultations.
I've met some patients who have reduced sense of smell and taste. But in general, young patients would get better soon. They are asymptomatic. They don't even have any symptoms. But the elderly patients and those with chronic diseases, their conditions may not be ideal.
Dr. Owen Tsang, medical director of the Infectious Disease Center at Princess Margaret Hospital, has been taking care of the COVID-19 patients since the very beginning of the outbreak.
According to our experience, it seems that around 30% of our patients have some kind of what we call a diffusion capacity problems, meaning that they might have difficulty having gases exchange in the lung.
He says many of these symptoms are from lung damage.
For example, those elderly patients, those patients with already pre-existing cardiovascular or lung problems, and also for patients with diabetics, hypertension, and they are more likely to have a very bad lung damage. Even after the recovery, they need time to go back to their normal stage.
Dr. Tsang says recovered patients undergo walking tests to determine how much lung function they still have.
If they can run for 30 seconds for a certain distance, now they have to spend a few minutes to go to that stage, then it might be a big problem for them. All right? And also some of them are working if they cannot go back to their normal work. And it's a big problem to them.
Before Vanessa got the virus, she was working as a structural engineer. After the COVID experience, she decided to try something new and applied for a human resources position.
They asked me if I have interacted with people who had COVID or whether I was out of Hong Kong for 14 days. That's when I honestly told them that I had COVID. So it's not a lie. I'm cured. Their reaction was, it's the first case. Nobody had COVID recovery ever applied to our job, to our company, but they were ultimately comfortable with it. They're not afraid of me in terms of always have to wear a mask when I'm around, but I also try to be as careful as possible. Sometimes wearing a mask around other people can make them more comfortable, so I do that.
Dr. Tsang says the discharge criteria are quite stringent. They only discharge patients when they have no infectious risk to other people. But it seems difficult to persuade employers that this group of people is safe to interact with.
We did have patients complaining to us that their workplace want them to have another 2 weeks of leave instead of going back to their work after discharge. So in general, we will give some sick leave to these patients and trying to fulfill their work requirements so that they won't be, jeopardized or embarrassed by their workplace colleagues.
Teresa has also been looking for a job.
When I was in South America, actually I've lined up another job opportunity. That was the plan. I'm getting very close, to seal the job opportunities.
After her first week in hospital, she did a job interview in the bathroom of her isolation ward.
At the beginning, the employer didn't know, but then I told the employer, yes, I'm now in the hospital. I told them. So I'm not sure if it's just a part of their consideration about the job opportunity. I don't know. But I didn't get it, so I lost that job opportunity.
She's open to opportunities, but she understands that the market is very quiet. So instead of aggressively hunting for a job, she spends more effort sharing her experiences online.
I think it's important for those who are struggling with the fear of COVID-19. At least they can see somebody else have gotten better and how they got over it. And they will, if in case they've got COVID-19 test positive, people will know what will be the treatment and what's the life in hospitals. So we've been through this battle. We really need the support, and so don't exclude them or don't just give a fearful or suspicion look to them. Just treat them as normal people.
After I got out from the hospital, I followed the doctor's recommendation and I did 14 days self-isolation. On top of that, with my friends, I maybe spare another week or two before I see them. But there are still one or two of them who were afraid to interact with me because they knew that I had the COVID before. Well, the first initial feeling I had was, of course, I'm a little bit sad because who likes being avoided? But then when you put yourself in their shoes, they're only taking more cautious behavior, so it's understandable. There were so many unknowns, so obviously everyone was anxious and probably giving a hard time to themselves. But I guess the learning is to appreciate more, relax, and don't hold on to some things that you cannot control.
After the break, we take a look at whether we can take more lessons from SARS 17 years on. Stay with us. Welcome back. The year was 2003. Hong Kong was the SARS epicenter where 1,750 people were infected and 286 died. Many recovering patients from SARS still carry long-term scars. At the time, a trust fund was established to offer financial and medical aid to those in need. As Tina Zhang reports, lawmakers and frontline doctors debate whether we now need to do the same for those recovering from COVID-19.
I'm Mabel Wong, and I'm a recovered COVID-19 patient. I got infected of COVID-19 around end of March because I was studying in France for a cultural experience program.
Mabel tested positive a few days after arriving in Hong Kong. She was sent to hospital where she spent 27 days in treatment.
After I got discharged, end of April, and I went to see the doctor twice. And then the doctor saw my x-ray of the lung and also saw my blood report. Doctor said my lung is clear, and that means I don't have any side effects or long-term symptoms of my lungs, and I don't have cough anymore. Everything is fine.
But she didn't trust what the doctors said to her.
After I got discharged, I suffered from insomnia. I think for almost 2 months. I did not trust fully that I don't have any virus anymore. I always imagined there was still virus in my body and I couldn't sleep very well. And then the doctor said I got a mild anxiety disorder.
She was sent to see a clinical psychologist.
When I asked the doctor if I'm immune from the COVID-19, he said probably the immune or antibody will drop after 3 or 4 months. So probably you're likely to be contract COVID-19 again. I don't want to contract again. Of course, it's a tough journey. So I try to protect myself and try to avoid all the social gatherings. And yeah, it's not easy.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Owen Tsang says some recovered patients may have physical and psychological symptoms even after being discharged.
We do have, again, about 20 to 30% of the patients may have some kind of emotional problems. They may feel depressed. They will be very anxious. They may have difficulty falling asleep, and they may be very anxious when they're going out to the street and worrying about transmission to others.
In the ongoing pandemic, one concern is that some discharged patients are testing positive again. Hong Kong reported the world's first case of reinfection last August.
Even though they was being classified as successfully rehabilitated or recovered patient, they still had a lot of unanswered questions in their minds. A lot of patients, after they has been staying in the intensive care unit, they have some post-traumatic syndrome, meaning that they may be, having a kind of reactions to prolonged stress.
Dr. Kwok Ka-ki, a Civic Party lawmaker and practicing doctor, says this particular group of people have been ignored since March.
We have been approached by some patients who are actually recovering from this COVID-19. They had a lot of different problems. Nobody cared about their psychological status. Nobody cared about whether they can going back to work. Nobody has approached them for anything. You see how ridiculous it has been almost 6 months already. They'll be discharged from that hospital and say, bye-bye, you should be okay. And if the patient asks about where should I get the help, go to social welfare department maybe going to the medical social worker, but they don't have any extra resources.
Dr. Kwok says the government is doing a bad job at helping recovered patients when compared to the administration during SARS 17 years ago, when a trust fund was established to offer financial and medical aid to those in need.
We should be learning from the experience of SARS. There was at least 3 reports from the SARS saying that we need to support, to strengthen, like the infectious control measure in Hong Kong. But you may be aware that most of these recommendation has been neglected by the government.
He says the government should follow the SARS model and set up a fund for COVID-19 patients as well. He suggests creating a committee of government officials, NGOs, and medical professionals to assess what kind of support should be given to those patients.
It must be an extra funding from the government, because it will be unfair to other patients if the hospital authority need to take out a lot of resources just to cater for those 5,000 people recovering from COVID-19.
Dr. Kwok also suggests a special clinic be set up to keep track of their health. But Dr. Tsang disagrees, saying SARS and COVID-19 are 2 different stories.
We follow up these patients in our clinic at the moment and without any problems. I wonder whether we need such a clinic, because we will follow up this patient anyway. They are being taken care of. And I don't want to stigmatize them by putting them into a special clinic. If I told you that about 30% of the patients may have some diffuse capacity problems, but most of them are mild and they will improve over time. It's different from SARS.
More than a decade ago, the deadly SARS epidemic left many patients with long-term scars.
Most of the SARS patients will be symptomatic, and around 10 to 20% of the admitted patients require ICU care. So they have a very bad lung damage. During the time of SARS, and we also use a lot of drugs which are claimed to be useful, like steroid, like the ribavirin. We use these 2 drugs. And also the steroid was used at a very, very high dose at that time. It's 100 times more than the one that we are using for this COVID-19. So their side effects are much, much obvious. Some of them have difficulty walking and also suffer from osteoporosis or diabetics, and some of them even have hypertension.
Dr. Tsang thinks there will be fewer drug-associated problems this time around because they're using less steroids for COVID-19 patients, as not everyone needs them. Elderly patients or those with underlying risk factors have the most issues.
For COVID-19, most of these patients are relatively well, especially for the young patients. They just don't want to come back for follow-up. They don't want to be assessed again.
In July, the government said they have no plans of setting up a trust fund or of providing any extra resources for discharged COVID-19 patients.
Perhaps the government saying that it is not our duty to support those patients, because they're always saying that the disease comes accidentally. Actually, it's a disease spreading from Wuhan, from mainland China, we all know. At the very beginning, the performance of the government onto combating against the disease is not to our satisfaction.
So far, Hong Kong has reported more than 5,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases. More than 100 people who died had the virus. Most of them are elderly. Mabel Wong formed an online support group for recovered patients because there is nobody they can turn to.
For me, after I got recovered, I feel helpless. So it was good that we gathered together and we asked each other for any probably some health tips to stay healthy and stay emotionally positive. And yeah, and that kind of encouragement is quite important for our recovery journey. We tried to reach out to the government, but the government did not respond to us, and then so we tried to support each other instead.
She says more than 20 people have joined the group.
We received 10 sessions of free treatment in the Chinese medical clinic. That kind of support might not be enough. I urge the government to put more effort to support these recovered COVID-19 patients. For example, to assign social workers to help each of them, or provide a hotline for them to call in if they need other support.
The government has been spending a lot of money on different areas to support those industries, like tourism, catering industry, hotel industry, what you name it. We cannot accept that if you are able to spend 300 billion on helping those employers, industry, but you are saying you don't have the money to setting up a fund for those people really having the disease, those families really suffering from the COVID-19. It is something which is illogical, isn't it? We should have the ability to be a really caring society, but certainly cannot be reflected on the way we treated the patient with COVID-19. In a way, Hong Kong is a wealthy society, but we had money, but we don't have the heart.
That's our show for this week. Next week, we look at what it takes for an average person to lead a near carbon-free life, and if long-term renewable electric power is possible in Hong Kong. Thanks for joining us. Good night.